Inflaming tensions ahead of the pro-Palestinian protests. Suella Braverman described the demonstrations as hate marches and questioned the integrity of the police for allowing yesterday's rally to go ahead. The Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, has accused her of sowing the seeds of hate. Well, earlier the King led the national service of Remembrance at the Cenotaph in London, observing a 2-minute silence to honour fallen soldiers. The nation fell silent to commemorate the end of the First World War and other conflicts involving British and Commonwealth forces. Members of the royal family and politicians laid wreaths. The Prime Minister and the Labour leader were also at the Cenotaph alongside other senior politicians and dignitaries. The World Health Organization says Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital is no longer functioning as a hospital amid ongoing battles between Israeli forces and Hamas. Well, the Director General of the WHO says the constant gunfire and bombings in the area have exacerbated the already critical circumstances at Gaza's largest medical facility. Israel says Hamas is using the hospital as cover for a command centre, which the terror group denies. Meanwhile, Palestinian health officials say 13 people have been killed in an airstrike on a house in Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. People in Northern Ireland, England and parts of Wales are being warned to batten down the hatches as storm Debi approaches. Heavy rain and gale-force winds up to 80 miles per hour are expected. It comes as some parts of the country are still reeling from the effects of Storm Ciarán. Yellow alerts will be in place from 3 a.m. tomorrow morning to 6 o'clock in the evening. And the Prime Minister's marked the start of Diwali, that's the Hindu Festival of Light. Rishi Sunak was joined by his wife and daughters. They lit candles at Downing Street. The family placed them around the steps of Number 10 for the start of the 5-day celebration. It's believed the placement of lamps and candles outside homes protects against spiritual darkness and brings good luck. This is GB News on TV, on digital radio and on your smart speaker too. That's it for the moment. Now it's time for Headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Josh Howie, and joining me to work their magic with Monday's newspapers are Schaefer the Magnificent and Steve N. Miracle Man. How have you been, gentlemen? I see that you both pulled a little prank on me because before the show we were discussing the etiquette of wearing poppies after the Remembrance Sunday, and now you were like, no, I'm not going to wear them, and then you've left me in it, and now you're both wearing, so...
I don't remember having that conversation
I feel very humiliated here.
Not only do I not remember, I don't know so little about this poppy business, but I'm wearing it in... and I had a choice to wear it. I didn't have to wear it, and you don't have to wear it.
Well, I do have to wear it, and we made a decision together, and now you've both betrayed me, and I know exactly what you've done, and I'm disgusted. Right, let's look at Monday's front pages. The Guardian... Mould and squalid housing making NHS crisis worse. Mirror, have you no shame? The Times, arrest anti-Semitic Yobs now, Sunak will tell Met. The Daily Mail, Suella comes out fighting. And The Express, will Suella survive PM's reshuffle? And finally, The Star, it's the perfect storm. And those were your front pages. First up, we have the Daily Mail, Lewis.
The Daily Mail, I guess the big story is Solemn Kate's tribute to the late Queen on day respect for the fallen was restored. Or is that the big issue, or is it...
Well, I mean, it's a nice photo of her. She looks very sad. She is wearing 3 poppies.
She's wearing 3 poppies and this earring.
She's shaming me as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what... I mean, I don't want to seem sexist. I'm not sexist because I just think...
You don't want to seem it. You don't want to seem it, but you are it.
Yeah, well, I am it, but it's kind of like sexist to think that her way of a solemn tribute is to make her earrings look similar to an earring that the Queen wore in 1973 on a trip.
Wow, you really read deep on this story.
I did read deep on it. And then she's wearing 3 poppies instead of 1 poppy. I mean, she showed up. She showed up.
And that's all you got to do nowadays, isn't it? You just got to show up. Look.
Well, she's the queen. I know people. She's not the
nearly
queen.
not queen.
She's the princess. She's going. Let's hope if she lives, she's going to be the queen.
If she lives, what do you know that we don't know?
I don't
Lewis,
know.
please.
I know. At my age, anybody could die at any moment.
She's not your age.
I know, but I'm thinking anybody can die at any moment, including someone as young as her.
Well, this is starting out at a grim angle. You have really gone down.
I didn't mean it that way. You just sort of knock wood. It's
One
like
of
you
the
don't.
easiest stories to be positive about. Doesn't she look great?
She looks lovely. She was commiserating.
Right off the end.
You
Straight
know
off the deep
me.
end.
You know me. I'm no big fan of the royal family, and I'm no big fan of the royal
You've really
family.
you've proved it now.
Yeah.
Let's go to a story that might actually impact our lives in some way.
And then Suella comes out fighting.
Yeah.
And Suella's basically, she's been the touchstone for everything that maybe the Conservative Party conservatives have wanted. She's coming out and she's saying it's absolutely disgusting, the terrorism, the marches for terrorism, and she's saying they're polluting the streets with hate. And a lot of people are saying that the marches are just pro-Palestine, and that they're not supporting Hamas.
I'm pro-Palestine. I want a Palestinian state, but the argument goes, of course, Steve, that what we saw on those marches were chants for genocide, even though people might argue, oh, no, we don't, even though that's the original form of the chant. And you saw these insane placards and whatnot. I do actually want to ask a question here rather than make a statement. What I noticed from observing the stuff online, because frankly I was actually a little bit too scared to go into town yesterday, was whichever social media bubble you are in is which video you tended to see. So people on the far left are like, look at all these videos of yobs and whatnot, and everybody else was kind of like, look at this anti-Semitism, and everyone was pretending that each other's videos didn't count.
Pretending. I think you're right about mentioning echo chambers, that this is the internet and Web 2.0, as it was called, worked out that if you do this, people love it. You get the endorphin kick. Show people the video they want to see.
Yeah.
It's turning confirmation bias into an industry. But when you get a moment like this, it becomes really apparent that actually, it's not that people are willfully ignoring the video that proves them wrong. They haven't even seen it. On your Twitter and Facebook or whatever, you'll never be challenged. Your confirmations are just continually reinforced. So, I mean, I'm amazed you got to see the ones you disagree with.
Well, fortunately, everyone hates me.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm very lucky.
I don't hate you.
Oh,
I don't like
That's
you.
not what
but
you
I
were
don't
saying
hate you.
earlier on when we were talking about poppies. You said, I hate Josh, let's make sure he doesn't wear one.
Yeah.
Let's. I think you're wrong, Steve. Is it because you're making it seem like it's an internet thing? People have always been in their bubble. They've always been hanging out with their same friends. They've always read the same newspapers. They've always had it confirmed in the same.
Your bubble used to be 7 people in a pub, and now it's what looks, from your point of view, everyone. Your bubble looks like the entire world.
Those 7 people in a pub could seem like everybody at one time, and it did seem like everybody. All my friends, people had fewer friends. Now they've got 1 million friends on Twitter and Facebook.
That's lucky.
I think people, they believe what they want to believe. That's the scariest thing.
Well, let's look, Steve, at the Mirror. What do they believe?
They are very much in a different echo chamber. Have you no shame is their headline. They're pointing out that the Home Secretary was there 24 hours after Armistice Day violence. Her words helped to incite. For me, you need to be able to consider that 2 things can be wrong at the same time.
People can't do that.
I know.
You're giving people way too much credit there.
But she, in her article in The Times, made some points that are probably true. That doesn't mean that everything she says is true, and it doesn't mean the way that she has gone about it is correct. But people fall into that trap. Yeah, there is bias policing. Therefore, it's right to say it like just before the biggest version of this protests that have happened every Saturday, but one lands on a special day. And because she spoke about it, I think that's helped the number of people turn up. Some of them, they're being described as far right, maybe then just agitators. There are people who've been arrested who've got previous arrest records for football violence. They probably don't care about the politics of it. They just turn up to
Well, you certainly saw some of the videos I saw of, you saw a majority of people at the cenotaph paying their respects quietly, and then you saw some definite yobbish behaviour.
Yeah.
Which is obviously a shame and goes against the whole point of being out there on that day.
But if you have only if you've basically demonized anybody who goes there to protest, only the people who are demons or might be demons, or some of them might be demons. What they've done with the Palestinian demonstration is there 300,000, maybe 500,000, I don't know how many people, but
20 people. 20
people, but they're, I don't want to say the people who turned up were bad people. I don't believe that they were, most of them. But only people who are willing to take the abrobation, is that a word? Willing to take the heat.
No, I'm not Andrew, so I don't know.
The heat for turning up will turn up. But when you have a demonstration, which seems like a garden party, and it's suddenly a sort of an Arab Spring taking place in London, you're going to get everybody and their mother.
There were some shocking videos. There was a young woman calling for the death of Jews.
Yeah.
There was a very innocent couple just being sort of pushed around because they were wearing a poppy, and some people were accosting them, and then the police attack this, and this poor wife is crying.
Yeah. Yes,
There was some shocking placards.
Yes, and I'm not saying there's equity between these two groups of people, but there were many peaceful people who went to the Palestinian thing, because there were way more people who felt it was going to be an all right, safe space, because there'd already been 4 of them. No one knew what was going to happen at the Senate House.
I guess the difference is that you just didn't see much challenging of some severe overt anti-Semitism. At least I didn't see any of that.
No, there could have been there could have been 10 times as much negativity at that. And there might have been, I would have to say.
That's such a positive outlook for you. There just could have been a lot more anti-Semitism.
No, I'm saying we didn't see it, but there was... I don't know if I'm not explaining it properly.
No, you're not. It's terrible. It's been terrible. Right, let's move on to the Times. What do you think about this, Lewis? They've also got this thing. Maybe we'll leave this anti-Semitic, but they just seem that Sunak is saying that they're now going to be clamping down on anti-Semitism, which they really should have been doing for the last month.
They should have done it in the very first day. It was just atrocious.
People have been emboldened, I think.
They have been emboldened, and I think it's and I can't tell really what's going on, but I think it's the death of England. I think
death of England, the death of love, and the death of England.
And the death of England, yeah.
There's also Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland.
And those
GBNews, mate. GBNews.
Sorry, it's the death of Britain. Oh.
So quickly on this though, to the actual point, the rule should be you can't ban protests, otherwise it's a slippery slope. But if you break the law, you get arrested for it. Seems simple, doesn't it?
Yeah, but so much of that is the problem. It is exactly that would be the situation you would expect that we already are. This idea that we have to add laws to make it easier to arrest people for anti-Semitism. Those laws exist. The police just haven't been acting on them. Let's move on. Let's get off this topic. Let's move on, Lewis, to this other story about the NHS.
Well, the NHS failing to improve despite budget. I'm never really upset about the NHS, because I think most of the health problems that people have can be cured through diet and sun and stress reduction.
I'm going to clip that up when I visit you in hospital next time.
Yeah,
you visit the NHS every week, don't you? You are a big drain on this country's resources.
You want to know something? I'm totally not. My trips to the NHS are to convince them that I'm okay. They're constantly telling me my cholesterol's too high, you need to do this and you need to stop doing this.
Steve, what do you want to say here about... I mean, this is obviously Rishi Sunak's one of his big tentpole promises.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to be looking good, really.
I did the swiftest of Google. So the problem is the NHS has had more money but isn't treating more people. They're going to look into it. There's going to be an investigation. They'll do an inquiry. They'll get to the bottom of it.
And then there'll be a Labour government.
But back in May, the FT already looked into it, and it's a recruitment problem. Oh, that makes sense. If you can't recruit more people, you can't treat more people. They could have Googled it.
Wow.
But no,
there we go. Solving problems there. Finally, let's very quickly, Steve, do the I.
Hunt considers pre-Christmas tax cut to lift Tory gloom. I think the headline gives it all away. It's not lifting our gloom, it's lifting the Tory gloom. Because Jeremy Hunt was saying, no, you can't have any more tax cuts while inflation's high. It might drop below 5%. Still going to feel high, but they're going to go with tax cuts. But it's inheritance tax.
Yay!
Don't fall for the culture war stuff on this. It's the top 4% of people who pay it.
Boom.
If you're not in the top 4%, this is not a Team U move. The other one is stamp duty. So they're really helping out the struggling families. People who are buying big old houses and rich enough to be in the top 4%.
No, that is
Tories.
not true. That is not true. I don't know much about this myself.
No, it's not true.
But I was told by I've got one really rich friend, and he's in New York, and he tells me, and he owns a house in this country and a house in New York.
All right, look, stop humble bragging, all right?
Yeah. And he says, and he tells me that the stamp duty is the #1 thing that prevents people from selling their houses.
Okay, thank you very much, Lewis, and thank you for your friend as well, your rich friend. That's the front pages. Pulled out the hat. Stick with us for police trick or treat, Ukraine false flag black ops, and where is our Nigel? See you in 2.
We We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie, second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays at 9 on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6 is Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's, at drive time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app, and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Josh Howie, and going through Monday's papers, we have the Dinosaur Hour star Lewis Schaefer.
Yeah.
And the new star of Talk TV, Steve and Alan. you think we didn't see you on Talk TV, you betrayer?
On 5 Live again soon.
Oh, wow. But you know what? We haven't got an exclusive contract. That's our fault.
I know.
We need to lock you in, big boy.
No point accidentally giving exclusivity unless it's been paid for.
Fair enough, fair enough. Lewis, let's kick off with Monday's Telegraph and a disturbing photo of 3 children playing dress-up.
Could you give me the number? Could you give me the number to Talk TV? Anyway.
You messed up my link for that joke. Your joke was better. OK.
Was my joke better?
Yeah, I know.
There you go.
Yeah, 3 children playing dress-up. Let's do this.
OK. What, 3 children? Scotland Yard. Are we doing that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, Scotland Yard apologises after officers posed with child holding a pro-Palestinian placard. I don't know why this is news, because if people are thinking that these demonstrations...
No, let's see the photo, because it isn't just that he's holding a placard. He's dressed as a terrorist. he's got the headscarf on.
He's dressed like no. This is the way Palestinians, their national costume is that kafir. That kafir type
What,
thing.
they cover their eyes? He's dressed like the guy.
It's very sunny there. You have to be protected.
He dressed like the guy who planned the October 7th attack. In the same headscarf, the red colour. I mean,
It could have been his Halloween costume that he was wearing. He was wearing...
Well, this is my idea. I think all 3 of them look like they're in Halloween
maybe they're
costumes.
dressed up. It's like the police department of this city. They dress up as police. They don't really do very much. It's just make-believe. So I would say this, is that the police in this country, in this city, are very nice people, generally. And I think that's what they're doing. They're just being nice.
They're just like, you don't think that they would maybe think this is slightly suspect, Steve?
Exactly. It's the optics, isn't it? Look, we can sit here and say, don't ban protests, because if you do, it's a slippery slope. Arrest people if they break the law. But guys, you know that the narrative of this one is like the accusation of biased policing. Don't go, tell you what, come and have a little hug. Because it's not going to help the argument.
You cute little tyke, you, dressed up as a terrorist. I mean, I've seen people online saying, arrest the kid. You know, no, of course not. But the parents, surely this is a massive red flag.
That the kid is dressed like that. No, they're probably they're super proud of the kid.
Yeah, but the point is that kid is not going out and saving his pocket money to buy the.
Do you know what? The people when October 7th happened, there were many people who were proud of the.
Oh, no, yes. I've seen the people giving out... No, it's a tradition to give out sweets, celebrating the death of Jews and whatnot. The point is, this kid, and more importantly, his parents, live in this country. That's what's terrifying.
You've raised... The headline is not about this kid. The headline is about the police.
Okay, fine.
And the police... This situation has been accepted. It should have been shut down the very first day. People should have been embarrassed to go out there, and it hasn't been. So this is to be expected. You can't hold these people against.
No, well, the police encouraging it. Right.
Yeah.
More Telegraph next. And Steve, if it's about a lack of public confidence, are they going to close the entire police force?
This could be the start of it. The CPS hate crime panel has been dissolved amid lack of public confidence. The move comes amid mounting concerns about views espoused by some advisors. I mean, it's interesting because we talk on shows like this about what is hate, about online bills, about hate crime, and it all boils down to the definition of hate, who gets to pick it. You think, oh, maybe they could have some sort of a panel of experts that could look at it. Turns out that don't work.
Well, not when the experts are actually the people who've been discovered now proponents of the hate, spreading the hate themselves.
Indeed, praising Hamas, which would come under what we're talking about. If you're a fan of a prescribed terrorist group, then you're breaking the law. I mean, to be fair, later in the article, he says it was before they were prescribed, which, you know, it's a weak source argument, but maybe it gets you over the line technically. But this is why it will be impossible to have a panel that can discuss these things. How do you get the definition of hate? Because they're looking for people who are really involved in it, and they've looked too hard, I guess.
Well, what do you think, Lewis? Do you think that they should just not have any of these panels and just use a bit of sense?
Well, I'm guessing from the CPS's point of view, they say, let's get some people on the payroll just in case the bleep hits the fan, and we need somebody on our side. We've been paying off this guy, and I think that's possibly what it is. Maybe something as
well, I suggest it's people actually being afraid to take a stand for what they believe is morally right. We saw, I just want to quickly bring in here, first of all, you had, like 2 weeks ago, you had the Met Police going, jihad, obviously, it just means a spiritual struggle whilst people are chanting it aggressively in front of signs saying Muslim army and whatnot. But on top of that, about 2 years ago, you had a procession of cars driving through North London with Palestinian flags and through loudspeakers calling for the rape of Jewish mothers and daughters and whatnot. Those people were identified and not actually, the CPS dropped the case. So when you start seeing about this advisory panel for the CPS, and it turns out they've called for hate crimes, committed hate crimes themselves, arguably, this explains why.
I think this country has lost fear. We're like those mice who've been infected with that cat dander. Do you know?
Plasmosis, that one.
Right. Where they're not afraid of the cat anymore.
Cat.
We're not cat dander.
So wait, who's the mice and who are the cats? Before we move on,
we're the cats.
So we're not.
No. We're the mice. Sorry. So we're the mice. We, Western people, we're not afraid. We've had 70 years of peace. We think we got Hitler.
Yeah.
Hitler was the worst. And we stopped the Russians. The Russians were bad, but they weren't here. And maybe Britain hasn't had a war on its soil in so many years that the English people grew up to be a gentle race of people.
In this metaphor, who is the toxoplasmosis gondii, or whatever it's called?
The World Economic Forum.
Oh, my God. There we go. Well done. Right. Is it just D. Ream celebrating this story in the Times, Lewis? Do you know this reference?
D. Ream, is that Things Must Always Get Better?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Things must always get better.
That wasn't... We didn't really... Whatever it is, we didn't plan that.
No.
Okay. Well,
Things must always get better.
They must. You've got to hope they're going to get better, unless you're me and they get worse.
Yeah.
So what is this? What is the story? Labour set to do better, and then Blair's 1997 landslide in the last election. And there's a poll, and the poll was done by Survation, and it was paid for by the UK Spirits Alliance. I don't know why they're doing a poll, but I do know why they're doing a poll. And the latest survey said that even after, this is like a month after the October 7th thing, is that more people are going to vote for Labour, and the Conservatives are basically sunk. And they're going to win by 431 seats to Conservatives, 156 seats.
I mean, maybe they're saying that the argument about ceasefire versus humanitarian pause isn't ripping the Labour Party apart. I mean, it makes sense. You're surveying people in the UK, and it's all going to be about how their pockets feel and how much they trust the government. And so if Labour do win by this huge amount, they need to send a thank you basket to Rishi Sunak and Suella Braverman at the moment, who seems to be doing all the hard work. It's going to be more not voting for the Tories than voting for Labour.
I just want to say here, having too strong a win is bad for democracy.
Yeah.
You need some balance here, and it can just let the government of the day just run amok and do whatever it wants.
Yeah, well, that's why we have the House of Lords, in theory.
Yeah. Well, but then if they ditch the House of Lords...
No, the political system in this country, nothing personal. There's lots of great things about this country, but the democracy is not strong because it's winner take all. There's not like in America with its checks and balances.
Yeah, mate. You guys are doing really great.
We are doing great.
Yeah,
we are doing great, and things can be stopped and slowed down when you have one party. But you said something. The person who's done all the hard work has been Starmer, who has handled a rebellion in his party so well. He has handled the Muslims so well, where he said to them, he said, you stay with me. We're not going to promise you what you want. Just stay with me.
Well, I don't know if they will stay with him, but arguably the rest of the population don't want to see anyone appease
those people. Right.
Well, not those people, but just to appease what we're seeing on the streets.
Yes.
That's it, and the ceasefire. And also, it obviously goes against this whole idea of him being a flip-flopper and whatnot.
Yeah.
Anyway, look, a more serious respite now, Steve, for one of our own, Mr. Leo Kearse.
Yeah, this is Scottish comedian Leo Kearse. I don't know if you've heard of him. Issues an appeal. He's done this on Twitter to find his missing 15-year-old nephew after he vanished on Friday from his mother's house in Glasgow. Winston Hastings Kearse, have a look on social media if you want the details to try and help out and keep an eye out. These things are incredibly sad. The only items he's believed to have taken are 2 teddies, and that's the kind of fact in a story that kind of hits the heart, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Obviously, the family's worried. As I say, there's details on Twitter. I do think it's odd when one of us is in the news, and I realised the 3 of us have been in this situation of being in news stories that we get reviewed. You were interviewed by someone at a protest, Lewis, at an Ofcom, and I had my row with a lawyer. But none of those stories were quite as personal, I guess, as one.
Well, also, I mean, you know, arguably we have a voice, and if anybody out there obviously sees him and can call into the police and whatever. I mean, I can't even imagine what the family are going through.
Just to say where it is, it's up in Glasgow, and he had left the house. And unlike Leo Kearse, he's only 5'5" tall.
Okay.
At 15, so he's relatively small.
Right.
So
well, hopefully he's going to be found safely and very, very soon. Now, much happier news now for one of GB News' family members. Who does the Telegraph have eating a kangaroo penis, and can they please remove it from the canteen here?
Oh, is that me?
Yeah.
Where is this?
Nigel Farage. Have you never watched I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here?
So what happens? We're not doing the Ukraine story.
No, we're not doing the Ukraine story.
Okay.
Jeez, why are you letting people in behind the scenes to what's going on?
I don't know.
Being silenced by the man again, Lewis.
It was so smooth. It was such nicely done that we'd cut that story.
You don't
and you were like, oh, what's going on here? We're not doing the Ukraine.
I didn't know what you were talking about because you were so illustrative.
Nigel Farage would never do this kind of unprofessional... Just tell them Nigel Farage's story.
Is Nigel Farage's story. Nigel lands in Australia, head of rumour and I'm a Celebrity appearance. He's going to be on I'm a Celebrity if he signs a contract. They don't know whether he signed the contract. He's being a bit fishy whether he's going to.
Yeah, he just happens to be in Australia.
And they're paying him. And why are they doing it? Why is he doing it? Is Nigel Farage doing it for publicity? Of course.
No, he's not. He's trying to reach the young.
Reach the young. That's what he says. If his TikTok is doing really well.
Yeah.
And he's being paid possibly 1.5 million pounds. But good luck to him, because look what happened. Matt Hancock was on that show.
Well, you know, this could be very good for the channel. He's obviously the big hitter here already. But
I was going to say, look, before you judge that Nigel Farage might be on I'm a Celeb just for publicity, remember Matt Hancock, who went on there to raise awareness of dyslexia, and thanks to him being on there, there's now no dyslexia.
But is
That's what
this,
happened.
Steve, let's go to break in a second, but is this money well spent? I think a lot of people are going to be tuning in.
Maybe.
I really sounded like Nigel Farage there for a second.
A lot of people will be. I think it'll make the TV show dull because it'll be like the Gillian McKee thing. Every week we'll be voting for him to do the. Or
but then you do it and you win people over time. I don't know.
Matt Hancock win you over?
No, but I think this is different. I think Nigel is a far more charming person, even if you disagree with
I agree with you. I think he. I mean, the question is, he's on TV. People could watch him here. He's on every night here. I don't know.
Well, not for the next few weeks. Congratulations on making it halfway. As you know, the last half is where we really let Lewis off his leash. We've got SNP disrespect, backing Hamas at your peril, and the end of BC and AD. See you in a moment.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Fed up of being patronised and bored to death by other afternoon news shows? Me too. So I thought, if you want a job done properly, do it yourself. News as it breaks on TV, radio and online. All the big debates and the best guests on the topics that you actually care about. Whether you're having discussions with your mates down the pub, in your van to and from work, or around the dinner table with your family, that's the kind of stuff that this show is all about. Join me, Patrick Christie's, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Acquare, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle. Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's my new teeth.
It's your new teeth. I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these 3.
Oh! No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays at 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners and straight into Monday's Telegraph, where Steve, perhaps this SNP leader just has a terrible singing voice.
Yeah, SNP Westminster leader accused of disrespect after not singing the national anthem.
Dissing us, mate.
Stephen Flynn. I mean, if that were the only problem, dissing us, I think that's what they do all the time. But it's more about dissing the war dead, which is a bad time to be doing some dissing. But he remained silent as the UK other political party leaders were singing along. Even Ian Blackford used to do this. So
who was the former head of Westminster SNP?
Yeah, and there's an interesting point made by Megan Gallagher, who's saying you can have your your Republican views, but you're at a different place. And I think sing the song, because it doesn't actually make a difference. There is no point in the future where he'll be saying, no, we should abolish the monarchy, and someone goes, but you sang it.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't, you're not giving away your...
You're representative, and you're there as a representative for Scotland.
Yeah.
And it's disrespectful to Scottish people who fought and died in the war, surely.
Well, I mean, I understand what he's thinking. He's thinking, I don't want to sing the king's name. I don't believe in this stuff, and I think it's really an anathema. Lots of people don't believe in it, but the fact is, it's the SNP, and they want to tear the union asunder, and as if we don't have enough problems. We're at war versus a war versus a war. We're having wars in every direction. We're tearing ourselves apart just at this time when we need to be
Can you sing the national anthem?
I can.
Yeah, do you want to give it a go?
America, America.
Oh my gosh, terrible.
That's not even the national anthem, I don't think.
Right, the mail next. And Lewis, please don't take this personally, but has this country finally learned to not harbour those that might harm us?
Yeah, well, this is, I'm going to use the word risible, because I don't usually use that word. I mean, it's laughable, really, because it's the Egyptian TV presenter, a former Egyptian TV presenter and YouTuber, Moataz Matar, who backed Hamas at pro-Palestinian rally in the UK, has his visa revoked by the Home Office. And this guy is a big shot. He's very good looking. He wears a blue blazer without a tie.
It's all about looks with you, isn't it? You're very shallow.
He could be my relative. It's the same kind of genetic thing. He's a very handsome man. And the Home Secretary and Braverman and Jenrick, who's the whatever he does, he's the immigration guy, and they said we're not letting the guy back into the country, which is an amazing accomplishment. One person out of millions that they've let in.
In a way, this could be their new immigration strategy. Just find people's social media, and then finally
who don't even have a visa. You know what I say? I say if you're not a citizen of this country, you should have less rights. If you are a citizen, you should be able to protest even the most horrific things. I believe that, horrific things, if you're a citizen. But if you're just visiting and...
Well, here's the thing. Why do you have a visa in the first place?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was trying to find the positive here. That I think it was a wise man who once said, we should have a situation where you don't ban protest, because that's the start of a slippery slope. But if you break the law, you get arrested. And, oh, look at this. He was backing a prescribed terrorist group and now visa revoked. So it is working slowly and later than possibly it should do. And we've got rid of a YouTuber. So it feels like a double win.
Yes, no. But the other thing, just very quickly about the story that I find amazing is that the stuff that he did online, the horrific things that he said in the support of Hamas, were found out, it seems like, from the CST, which is a Jewish organisation that protects the British Jews. And the fact that it's up to, it seems like, to these organisations to go out and find these people, why is it not being done by the Home Office? Why are they relying on these other organisations to identify these people who arguably definitely should not be here, who are unsafe in this country?
Yeah.
I think that's atrocious in itself.
That is the case, because we clearly have authorities that are tracking a lot of people.
Yeah, but obviously not. It should, Anyway, it's a very great organisation, CST. More reality, TV news in the Mirror, Steve, but this one entails an actual racist.
ITV's Big Brother, because that's where it is now, Trish, has apologised. She's been pulled from the show after racist posts resurfaced. I read the story on 5 different news websites and could not find which group she was being racist about. Well, because that's the question you...
I found it online, and it was everybody.
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 That's the Bernard Manning rule,
It was Jewish people, it was Africans. Now, we should just say she is, I think she might be Afro-Caribbean, but Chinese people, Asian people, she's homophobic, and I won't say what any of the tweets were, but they're not like little nudges of race. They're just like out and out proper racist.
Yeah.
And the ironic thing is, and I haven't been watching this, I used to be absolutely addicted to Big Brother, but the ironic thing is that, number one, is that she, in her time on Big Brother, has been complaining about people being microaggressions and whatnot. And number two is that she was like it turns out she's one of the favourites, and her being kicked out, there was a big furore online of people saying this is England being racist again and kicking out someone just because they're black. And then it turns out, of course, that she's, historically anyway, been massively racist.
Well, you know what? There's racist is what racist says, what racist does. There's different kinds of
racism. What does that mean?
You're right.
it's she said bad things about people.
Yeah,
it's
everybody.
You know, killing somebody because they're one ethnic group is bad, but you know.
Okay, wow, that's so insightful. No, but I mean, I guess the inclusion of the story is there's an irony. I think people are finally, well, not finally waking up. People have known a long time. Just because you are of an ethnic minority doesn't mean that you can't be racist.
Yeah.
And there seems to be this whole idea that somehow has pervaded our culture that if you are black or Asian or anything, if you are racist, it somehow doesn't even count. And I saw a tweet today defending the use of coconut as a slur and saying, no, this isn't racist and whatnot. And I think it feels racist to the people it's being applied to.
Yeah.
When you have anyway. Right, it was in 2023 CE that I was first made aware of this male story, Lewis.
Yes, BBC faces criticism after dropping Christian terms BC, which stands for before Christ, and AD, Anno Domini, from teaching materials, which means in the year of our Lord, from teaching materials for 7 to 11-year-olds. And this is on British Teach, which is, I guess it's films for primary and secondary schools. And so
7 to 11-year-olds.
So I don't know who's making a big to-do about this. This is one of the... People don't like it when what the BBC does because they're fed up with paying for it. If it was any other group, they wouldn't get... Do you know when the first reference to before Common Era was used, the Common Era?
300 years ago.
No, more than that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know that Jewish people use it. I've used it, like religious Jews use it.
It was more than 300 years ago.
But that's not. This is not for Jewish people or for anybody. I mean, it seems like a ridiculous thing, Steve, because even though whether people are atheists or not, this is a Christian country ostensibly, and as someone says here, I think use the phrase, it's a cultural tradition.
It doesn't even need to be that. I mean, as an atheist myself, I don't feel my rights are oppressed if I say BC or AD.
Yeah.
The odds of there's so many people would have to Google what AD means to even find it religious.
Yeah.
And it's an arbitrary scale, from my point of view. So I don't mind. You've named it after a thing, and you need an arbitrary scale because the only other place to start would be an absolute scale from the Big Bang, and that means the year would be a really big number.
And as someone
there
points
is no such thing as the Big Bang. So you have a real...
But sorry, just before. But as someone else points out in here, this arbitrary scale, even from starting at that point, still points to the centrality of Christianity within the ethos here, so it doesn't make any sense just calling it.
This story is just some anti-woke person making a big deal about it. And for example, my calendar uses...
more mail and more BBC, and finally we might get a chance to work for the channel, Steve.
Maybe. BBC and Gender Hours training course created to increase the number of female production staff opens to trans women. It's a 6-day course. It's called BBC Female Self-Shooters, which is close to something I've got.
Oh, hello.
But
Sorry,
it was...
I didn't mean to cut your punchline there. Say it again.
It's the same thought.
My timing was off, I apologise.
But they've got themselves in a pickle.
Yes.
That's what's happened here, because women are offended because it includes trans people, and what are you going to do now? Suddenly go, OK, we'll change the rules.
But surely trans women, it's a good idea, because then they can carry all the camera boxes and whatnot.
Either way, there'll be a furore, and it's almost fun to watch that they've been hoisted by their own petard. Why don't you just train people who want to do the job for the job, rather than specifically have a thing you can show off about oh, look, we've got a training course to get more women into camera.
Because it's telling women that they're victims, that they can't, that they've been punished and they've been penalised, and
I'm really worried that I agree with you.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Oh.
It's like you don't have special training things for people.
OK, well, they're trying to... The idea is to redress the balance, but, of course, it can be open to exploitation, just like they had their conference in America. They had a big tech conference, a women-only tech conference, and all these blokes, just geeky dudes, were like, I'm they, them. And they're just there in their sort of plaid shirts.
Right, because that's what men do. They're gaming the system.
That's exactly what we do. Brilliant. That's part 3 in the bag, but please don't go Betty Buys just yet. Coming up, we've got racist galaxies. Climate change is solved, and we find out how much Lewis pays women to sleep with him. See you in 2.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie.
Second best.
You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
No, thank you.
CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays at 9 on GB News.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Put in your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Lewis, get off your phone. Right, welcome back to Headliners. And let's kick straight off with Monday's Express. And it's a good thing the population is so terrible in London, Lewis. Otherwise, every night I'd be really triggered. Pollution was the word I think I would go for.
Galaxies named after, quote, violent colonialists in our night sky should be renamed. And their astronomers are calling for 2 galaxies to be renamed. This from Fernand Magellan, who was the Portuguese guy who tried to sail around the world, but they killed him halfway or something. And this is very early on. And because he was a bad guy. He was a bad guy. And so they want to change the name of his Magellan clouds to something else. But the truth is, this is just another, we're renaming the street in your town. They've run out of streets in our town.
So now finally we've gone to the stars. Is there, and would this be the end of it, Steve?
Hopefully, because I've come up to the opinion that this is not how proper nouns work. If you've been named after something, it's now your name. Recently I was reading about, there's a beetle that was named after Hitler. And you just think, it's not the Beatles' fault. Don't hold it against. Those Beatles done nothing in comparison.
Paul was named
No, not that one. I don't think so. But and they just stop blaming the galaxy.
Well, I don't think they're blaming the galaxy, but do you think it should be renamed, or do you?
No, I don't. Because that's what I mean. The proper noun then becomes that's the name of that galaxy.
So it becomes separate.
It becomes a separate idea. I also think that no one's ever going to think. Do you know what? I wasn't going to be racist, but there is that galaxy.
That galaxy.
So that Magellan one.
In the Milky White Galaxy. Yeah. Well, there's they're talking about changing it to the Milky Clouds. That's not what... You need more scientific... That's not scientifically sort of sound.
Because it is not a cloud. It may look milky and cloud-like, but it's not. It's like lots of little dots in the sky.
Wow, you are
planets.
such a genius.
I'm waiting for this guy to cheat.
Right, some good science news in The Guardian now. And even better, we've got a smarty pants who can make sense of it, Steve.
Yeah, this always makes me popular at parties.
Here we go.
Science. Floating factories of artificial leaves could make green fuel for jets and ships. Basically, they want to defossilise is the phrase they've used. I think it's not a strong enough word. Basically, flat things that float that use sunlight and carbon dioxide to make stuff that can be turned into fuel Brill, because then when you burn it, it still releases carbon, but the carbon it releases, you've just captured a couple of weeks before. So before you give into your urge to be like, hang on, if this is a thing that Just Stop Oil would like, I hate it. Imagine it's a simple question. Would you rather burn something that's just been captured or something that was neatly tucked away underground? It's difficult to get to. When you release it into our atmosphere, it's a new thing.
So they're creating their own oil substitute.
I think this is why they don't call it defossilised, call it carbon neutral, net zero.
Okay.
Because if a long enough period, net, it's not about gross, you've captured it, you've released it, that's net zero.
So, and the idea is that also it can be utilised because it floats, so we can sort of put it out in the oceans, which obviously the surface of the planet. What do you think of this, Lewis, or is this some conspiracy for you?
I don't think,
You believe in leaves?
It was like, I tell you what I don't believe in. I don't believe in climate change. I don't believe in CO2 being important. Okay. And so, and I don't...
Hey, Ofcom.
And whatever Steve says, Steve is like the Harvard University of this show. I don't believe a single thing that he says.
Okay.
I think Louis Schaefer's great. Oh, you're right not to believe that one. Oh, paradox.
No, it isn't paradox. I don't think I'm great.
But Lewis, I mean, if this works, surely this is a good thing.
There's something called the law of unintended consequences.
Yeah.
Which we don't know what's going to happen.
Like when we invited you onto this show.
Yeah. Who knows? Chaos would ensue. Seems like, this guy's a legitimate person from New York. You're totally right. I was kidding about what I said about you, and I don't want my many fans to pick on...
They think I'm...
People are very defensive of you online, aren't they, Lewis?
They are defensive.
They feel protective.
Well, because I need help.
You beg.
I need help, and I want them to buy a calendar, the Louis Schaefer calendar. It's amazing. Yeah. You can go to my website.
Now, can I ask you, is there any actual nude? Are there any nude photos?
Yeah, there's lots of nude.
You find the nude photo then.
There's lots of nude.
Okay, let's quickly find the nude photo. Surely that.
Here's one right here.
Stuck together.
Right here. Right there, there's
oh my God, it's you. Is that two women?
It's two
women.
You're
not nude. We want one to be nude. Okay.
Well, okay, I'll show you the November one, which is fantastic.
No, keep it, save it for another show.
Don't be naked in a cold month.
No, but I'm wearing
I love how we've segued from basically saving the planet to Louis Schaefer's.
I'm wearing a very tight. Look at that.
Okay, very quickly, come on, show us the nude photo. That's not nude. They just see your arms. Good arms.
But for the women who like me, they don't want to see nudity.
Of course they want to see.
No, they don't.
All right,
glasses on.
They could call me. They could contact me on Twitter. They could.
The Independent next, and is this why you're demanding a raise, Lewis?
The Independent. Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Dating rule says women shouldn't sleep with men unless they've spent $2,000 on them. And $2,000, not pounds, $2,000.
Yes, that's nothing.
And this is what's happening with the world. The women are like, they're harping back for a time when men cared. They're lucky. You know what it is? All the men that the women want.
Don't get pointy with me.
All the men. Steve, nobody has to pay.
Touching.
Nobody has to pay. Nobody. They will have sex with Steve.
Everybody pays.
Steve doesn't need to pay.
Pay one way.
The women who want to have sex with the top guys will not take money. But all the money in the world cannot. Oh, my God.
This is the easiest story we've done all night. It's a stupid story. And
what should I have said?
I don't know.
Okay, I do a really quick version of it.
Yeah,
I think that's great. I'd love to find out if you're the kind of woman who expects $2,000 worth of spending. Tell me early before I'm $1.50 in and still not going.
Maybe it's worth it. It's probably worth it. Right? You find out.
So you think actually this is in a way, this is quite a good idea. It's like we have a finite number here.
Yeah.
We have something to be working towards. We know, I think once we know it's like definite in a way, you're like, okay, well, I mean, and it's, by the way, it should be pointed out, this isn't all at once, right?
This doesn't
have to be, but
it's over 5 dates, which is £400 a date. This is $400 a date. The truth is, women, if they like you, they don't need even be taken to dinner. They don't even need a Mars bar. They don't need even a little candy. They will have, from what I've seen.
A Werther's original.
Remind me, what's the age difference between you and your girlfriend, Lewis?
Exactly, because I'm amazing for some women, not for most.
For some women who don't know any better because they're too young. Right.
Don't say that.
more good science news in the mail.
Don't listen to that,
And
man.
Steve, is this why some women sleep around?
Well, contraceptive pill changes women's brains and makes them risk takers, and that's why someone's ended up with Lewis, let's be honest. It's the oral birth control, changes the part of the brain. Just to do the science bit, it makes a part of the brain thinner, so there is a weight loss implication, so that's good. There is no actual way to prove that that thinner part of the frontal lobe is linked to behaviour.
But men do have a thinner part of front, which is why we're risk takers.
But still, the headline very much goes, the pill makes you take risks. We don't know that at all, but it's never stopped.
But there's something ironic here, that if that is true, and that is going to make women more likely to sleep with men like Lewis...
Yeah.
But
they're not going to get pregnant.
Well, yeah, exactly. This could be like the perfect invention here.
That's exactly right. This is the death of love. This is... no, they don't want families to be happy. So what they've done is they've made women have riskier, more promiscuous behaviour, and which maybe makes them happy in the short run.
Save you £2,000.
Okay,
and that nobody has kids.
Thank you very much. There we go. What a wonderful way to finish the show. The show is nearly over. Let's take another quick look at Monday's front pages. We have The Guardian. Mould and squalid housing make NHS crisis worse. The Mirror, have you no shame? The Times, arrest anti-Semitic yobs now. Sunak will tell Met. Daily Mail, Suella comes out fighting. Express, will Suella survive PM's reshuffle? Star, it's the perfect storm. And those were your front pages. That is all we have time for. Thank you very much to my guests, Lewis Schaefer and Steve N. Allen. You don't need to apologise.
No, this was the worst show.
No. This is definitely, you've been worse before. Don't worry about it. Simon Evans will be here tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Nick Dixon and Bruce Devlin. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. I hope you had a great weekend and have a great week. Bye.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
Oh! No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays at 9 on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's at Drive Time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Secretaries condemned anti-Semitic behaviour during the Armistice Day demonstration in London. Hundreds of thousands of pro-Palestinian protesters marched peacefully through the capital yesterday, but the Met Police says it's actively investigating a number of possible cases of hate crime. Suella Braverman's described some of the chants and placards as sick, inflammatory and clearly criminal, and has called for further action. She also praised officers for their handling of the disorder after right-wing counter-protesters who were trying to confront the rally clashed with police. The force, which arrested 145 people yesterday, has confirmed 7 have been charged with various offences. Meanwhile, British Transport Police is also investigating a racially aggravated altercation at London Waterloo and has released photos of 4 men it's trying to identify. They also want to speak to a woman over an alleged anti-Semitic hate crime at Victoria Station. Meanwhile, the Home Secretary, who attended today's Remembrance service, is being blamed for stoking tensions ahead of the pro-Palestinian protests. During the week, Suella Braverman described the demonstrations as hate marches and questioned the integrity of the police for allowing yesterday's rally to go ahead. Well, the King has led the nation observing a 2-minute silence on Remembrance Day, honouring fallen soldiers. The Prince of Wales was among the senior royals to stand behind King Charles, with the monarch wearing the uniform of the Marshal of the Royal Air Force. He laid a wreath similar to the one produced for King George VI. The Prime Minister and the Labour leader were also at the cenotaph in central London, alongside several other senior politicians and dignitaries. Hamas says it's suspending hostage negotiations because Israel is targeting a major hospital. The Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza City has come under intense fire as Israeli forces close in on the site. Israel claims Hamas is using the facility as cover for a command centre, which the terrorist group denies. Meanwhile, Palestinian health officials say 13 people have been killed in an airstrike on a residential building in Khan Yunis in southern Gaza, where people in the enclave have been told to relocate to. Weather warnings have been issued for Northern Ireland, England and parts of Wales as Storm Debi approaches. It's the 4th storm of the season. Heavy rain and gale force winds of up to 80 miles an hour are expected. Earlier this month, Storm Kieran caused widespread flooding. The yellow alerts will be in place from 3 a.m. tomorrow morning until 6 o'clock in the evening. And the Prime Minister's marked the start of Diwali, the Hindu festival of light. Rishi Sunak was joined by his wife and 2 daughters, lighting candles at Downing Street. The family placed them around the steps of number 10 for the start of the 5-day celebration. It's believed the placement of lamps and candles outside homes protects against spiritual darkness and brings good luck. Well, this is GB News, live across the UK. I'll be back with more a little later this evening, but now it's over to Free Speech Nation.
Another musician is cancelled for acknowledging biological reality. Protesters are openly anti-Semitic on the streets of London, and the Northumbria police threaten a woman with arrest for holding legally protected beliefs. This is Free Speech Nation. Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Andrew Doyle. This is the show where we take a look at culture, current affairs and politics, and of course we'll have the latest from those lovable eco-zealots this week. Just Stop Oil attempted to become the modern-day suffragettes by smashing up a painting with hammers. We're going to get to that later, but coming up on the show tonight, singer-songwriter Louise Distrauss has been cancelled by the music industry and will be here in the studio live to have her say. The leader of the Climate Party, Ed Gemmell, will join us to share his disappointment in the not-so-environmental-friendly King's Speech, as plans to boost North Sea oil and gas drilling are confirmed. Plus, hear how an ex-maths teacher who was fired for not calling a child by their preferred pronouns has had his career completely stalled and what he intends to do about it. And of course, myself and my fantastic panel will be answering questions from our studio audience. My comedian panellists tonight are Francis Foster and Bruce Devlin. How are you both?
Yeah. Good. How are you?
I'm OK. You were recognised in Tesco this week, weren't you?
I was, and do you know who I was? It was a lovely. It was a club card bottle of gin, and came up and said, "Are you from?" And I went, "Not in here." And then, do you know who I was having drinks with last night?
Go on.
Alex Kingston of ER fame.
Of ER fame? I'm afraid.
Noise. Ah, yes.
No,
exactly.
that is impressive. I've never seen the show, but I'm sure it is very impressive. Isn't it nice that Bruce gets recognised for GB News? Not in Tesco, though.
He didn't actually say it was from GB News.
It was, though, wasn't it?
was the cafe.
It was.
I'm often in. No, it was from GB News.
It was from GB News.
The guy came up to me and he said, I really appreciate everything you do with Andrew Doyle. And I went, well, I don't sleep with him.
He doesn't know the half of it.
No, exactly. It's tricky.
Francis, are you recognising Tesco?
No, mate.
Waitrose for you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, mate.
Okay. Well, look, we've got this great audience here, so let's capitalise on them to the full. We've got some questions. Our first question comes from Jason. Jason, where are you? Hi, Jason. Hi.
Are the Northumbria police breaking the law?
Yeah, this is an interesting story. The Northumbria police, they effectively, there was a lesbian who was interviewed under caution by Northumbria police. What she said is that trans women are men, which is, of course, as we know since the Maya for Starter case, a legally protected belief. But what the police said is that they would arrest her if she didn't come for interview. And, of course, this is a bizarre one. What do you make of that? Bruce, have you read into this one?
I have read in, and I've maybe said it before on the show, I was a similar thing after doing a gig on a train where I had to go down to Cumbria because a hate crime was reported against me. You'll love this.
Really?
Yeah, sustained and aggravated homophobic abuse. All I said was, bitch, please.
I think you get away with that phrase.
But they built a case and I had to go down with my friend Julianne and be interviewed under caution. And you know what the man said? I've never heard of you. And I said, I've not heard of you either. And we got on with this. He took swabs of my DNA and all that kind of stuff.
But this was in a comedy
This was a gig on a train, yes.
I mean, that is absolutely... I didn't know this about you. That is insane.
I thought I mentioned it before.
No, that is absolutely
You did,
insane.
he just wasn't listening.
I wasn't listening.
But this is sober tonight.
This is unbelievable, Francis. I mean, look, you know, the thing about this situation with the Northumbria police is they must know the law by now. We understand that a lot of police officers in the past didn't know the law, didn't quite grasp the law. But in this case, they must know. Since the Maya for Starter case, it is not... These are legally protected beliefs. You can't arrest someone for it.
Why are you assuming that these police officers are going to be competent?
Well, because I want to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah,
you know,
but we should stop giving them the benefit of the doubt. Look, these police officers love nothing better than trawling the internet, finding something that really offends them, for instance, a limerick,
yes,
and then bringing people in.
Well, that's what happened with Harry Miller, of
Yes.
course. So that he retweeted a poem which someone found offensive, and so they visited him. But the difference then was they hadn't had the Maya for Starter ruling, so they didn't know. Maybe there was, you know, I want to give people the benefit of the doubt. They didn't know the law at that point, but they do know it now. And I've read the transcript of that interview with Northumbria Police, and it's quite clear that this does not in any way fall into the bracket of malicious communications, as they claim. So why are they doing it? Some people, I mean, fair cop are making the point that this just looks like intimidation and bullying.
No, to me what this is actually ideological. It's people who believe in this ideology, who believe that, that people can magically change their sex, and that if someone says they are something, then they should be affirmed. And if you don't do that, therefore you are hateful, and therefore you need to be prosecuted, and the long arm of the law needs to come and clamp down on you. Plus, it's much easier to do that than arrest a rapist.
OK, fair enough. What about you? I mean, Bruce, did you end up being actually charged? You weren't charged?
Yeah, it came back as no further action, NFA, because I had to get, because obviously you have a different law system in England than you do in Scotland, and I had to get a lawyer in Carlisle. But the police were really nice at the end. We all had a laugh. They took us to Marks and Spencer's. We got our carry out for the train. It was all good in the end. It just was a huge waste of time.
But is it just that the police feel they have to do this because the regulations aren't clear?
But the funny thing was, I'd said to the woman who was dealing with me, I said, so what if I don't come? She went, we will send a car for you.
Wow.
Yeah.
But this is a comedy set.
Yeah.
I mean, people say a lot worse on stage.
That's the thing.
You included, actually. I heard you say a lot worse than that.
Camden, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
We're crying.
Goodness me. In fact, Bruce is going to be on my club on Tuesday, so I dread to think... just keep it clean, OK?
Oh, Rich.
OK, now this, by the way, is a statement that was tweeted out by Northumbria Police, so we should read this. We are aware of commentary on social media relating to a report of suspected malicious communications. As we continue to look into this matter, it would be inappropriate to comment any further. We did invite Northumbria Police to appear, but they declined. So our next question now is from Alan. Where is Alan? Hi, Alan.
Hi, guys. As one of the last surviving Conservatives in the Tory party, do you think Suella Braverman is actually trying to get herself sacked?
OK, Alan, what do you think? I mean, do you think that she knows full well that she's sort of representing the right of the party and that that's where the party's going?
She is. I think she's correct in saying what she said. Rishi can't get rid of her because I think there's probably about 50 Conservatives left in the party. I think they may leave en masse if they get rid of her. So
you say she was right about what she said. What specifically are you referring to?
Well, the march.
The march, yeah.
The fact that, it started peacefully, and they walked past the end of my road.
Right.
So I had 300,000 peaceful guys saying the wrong thing at times, that walking past the end of the road. On the way back, we had about 50 of the police vans in Grosvenor Place. We had troops of police chasing these violent guys up and down the roads. They were having fireworks fired at them. You never saw any of that on the news.
Fireworks at the police?
Yes. So, from the balcony, I was just watching this. It was like a balcony seat.
So this is kind of astonishing. I feel you want to come in here, Bruce.
Sorry, the thing happened to me on the district line. I was going into Soho, I know, stereotypical, and there was these big guys with, like, facial tattoos and whatever, archetypal, we were just saying, whatever. And they weren't necessarily doing anything, but I think the police were really scared, because at one point our carriage just got blown open, not by an explosive or whatever, but by troops of police that came in, they were armed, they got the guys off the train was held up because they were trying to disturb the train and all this kind of thing. That was quite scary yesterday.
Well, tensions were very high. I mean, and we've got some footage of what's going on there. Now, the thing is, Francis, a lot of the people out protesting were doing so peacefully, and it is really important to emphasise that. It's a minority of people who don't. However, to deny that there were certain... For example, I saw some footage of some very anti-Semitic remarks, placards, some very disturbing things being chanted. Now, my point about this is, yes, you can say that is a minority of these protesters, which it is, but why aren't the majority around them saying, shut up, stop doing that, you're bringing our movement into disrepute? Why is that not happening?
Because if someone's wearing a balaclava and being openly aggressive, you might think twice about confronting them. And look, I agree with you. The anti-Semitic abuse was so bad at one point that I thought I was watching the Labour Party conference.
Francis, outrageous.
And that is the real tragedy of this, that people were being openly hateful, openly anti-Semitic, and nothing was done.
So that's the issue, isn't it? I think if you're at a rally or a movement or something, and if I was at that sort of thing, and someone said something that was so egregious, I'd object, or at least I would expect others to object. I wouldn't go along with it. So that's the issue, isn't it? That it seems to have become normalised within the movement, these extreme expressions. And they are extremes.
So it's all polarised.
Yeah, it's totally polarised, No, I think, and it is difficult for the police